Hey, and welcome to Insurance Town. I'm the Mayor, Heath Sheeran, and the host of this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me today, because as you saw in the show notes, we're doing a solo. First of all, I couldn't do this show coming up on almost 4 years. Crazy to me. And couldn't do this show without you, the listener, obviously. And I couldn't do this show without my sponsors. And I love my sponsors because I've built a relationship with them, and I have built a friendship, and it's just been amazing. I got to start off with my good friends over at Smart Choice. They are the fastest growing agency network, hands down. And they do what they do for you. And they come in, whether you need one market or you need 10. They are the solution for you. Go to smartchoiceagents.com, and you're going to go to the Find a Market tab. Click on that. Go to the state map and hit your state, and you can find your products you can sell there. You can find your territory manager, your marketing reps, all of those things there. You can even get some advice there on some different things you can do within your agency. So awesome. Go to smartchoiceagents.com. Tell them the mayor sent you. I want to talk to you about my good friends over at Manscaped. Fall is here, ladies and gentlemen, and that means it's time to freshen up your grooming routine. And there's no better way than to do that with Manscaped. Fall is a season of change, and Manscaped has the tools you need to keep yourself looking and feeling your best. The Lawnmower 4.0 is a game changer. With advanced skin-safe technology, it's waterproof for you to use in and outside the shower. Manscaped is the men's best in below-the-waist grooming. Precision engineered tools for your family jewels. But that's not all. They also offer a discount for being a listener of Insurance Town. When you go to manscaped.com, scroll down to the bottom, type in the word mayor, and you will get 20% off. That's 20% off, plus you're getting your free shipping. That free shipping is an incredible game changer there as well. Manscaped.com, using the code mayor. There's a lot of people in your life that have helped you to get to where you're at, whether it's your parents, whether it's your family, whether it's your employees, whether it's your best friends, your church, your community. And it doesn't hurt every now and then to say thank you. And so I want to spend a few minutes right now doing that, because gratitude is such an important thing in this industry and in this world. And if there's someone in your life that's helped you get to where you're at now, take a few minutes and just say thank you. Send a text message. I tried to send out text messages throughout the week intentionally. I'm not going to lie. It is an intentional thing that I do, but it's a genuine intentionality, because I want my friends to know that I love them. I want them to know I'm praying for them. I want them to know that they mean something to me. And I try to do it in the moment, obviously. When they do something for me, I say, hey, thank you so much. But I definitely want to be something. When you get that random text from somebody that says, hey, I was thinking about you. Oh, so far. It's crazy. I get so many positive responses for that. And that's not why I do it. I do it because I love you, and I love my friends, and I love my family. And it's just something that's important to me. And showing that kindness, just, it's not dorky. It's not weakness. It's not anything else like that. And I've had people that talk to me about, man, you're too kind. You're too much like Switzerland. You're too this or that. I can't be that way, because then people will trample all over me. And every time I show this or that, people trample me. It's not about that. I mean, you can have kindness and gratitude, and you can do that in a way that is not weak, or not a way that's going to let people walk all over you. And it is empowering, and it does help you to get further, and it helps other people to get further. And I've always just lived by the motto of just letting people, or putting other people ahead of me, and putting people in front of me. And I want to do that. And it's never about me, and it's never about getting any glory for myself. I never started this podcast to become insurance famous. I never started this podcast to become an influencer. I never started this thing for any other reason than I just want to give back to an industry that's given so much to me for 20 years. So that's important to me. And I'm not going to lie, I do enjoy the feedback. I do enjoy getting the emails from you guys. I do enjoy the text messages and the DMs. It means the world to me that we've built this community, and that you guys feel comfortable enough to reach out to the mayor and say hi. And when you see me at events and you've come to hear me speak, I had a listener of the show that told me the other day they're driving all the way to Kansas. They don't even live near Kansas to hear me speak at an event because it was like, it's only a 4 or 5 hour drive. I'm going to come. And that really meant a lot to me. And I love it. And I love the community that I've built. And I love the community that we've built. And I love the sponsors and all of that kind of stuff. And really, before I get into, I'm reminded of my high school basketball coach. And I want to get into that story here in a minute, but I just, the story and the way he was with me, it was just one of those things I'll never forget. And I learned a lot of valuable lessons from my coach, and I didn't realize at the time, but it's been something that I'll never forget. And if you guys could just go back in time with me a little bit to the late 90s. Yes, I'm old. I got lots of gray in the beard, if you guys can't tell. But what I wanted to get into was this coach that I had. His name was Coach V, and he taught me a lot. And I didn't realize how much he had taught me at the time. And now that I've fast forward several years to where I'm at today, I've noticed some of the principles and the things that I use in my own leadership that travel all the way back in time to this coach. And now that I look back, this guy truly changed my life. And so I start off with, just to set up the stage here, our practices and our tryouts and everything that we would do. He would have these things called intervals that we would do. And we would come into the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, which back at the time was super early. Nowadays, I get up before then every morning anyway. But back then, as a teenager and 16, 17, 18 years old, I thought, man, this guy's crazy getting me up this early. But we would come in and he would have 60 minutes on the clock. And would just have us run up and down the court for 60 minutes solid. That's an hour for those who don't know simple math. But and it was just one of those things to where, and the best thing about it, looking back now, at the time I thought it was crazy, but now I look back and I understand some of it. But he would put on his favorite tape or CD or whatever it was, and it was Jack and Diane. It was Small Town. It was ROCK in the USA. It was John Cougar Mellencamp's greatest hits, basically. Hurt So Good, some of the greats out there. But he would put on, and it would just be a repeat of this album for an hour. And we couldn't slow down very much. We could jog, but we couldn't walk for sure. And we couldn't put our hands on our knees. We couldn't stop. If we did, he added more time. But it was just, at the time I understood, because we wanted to outrun our opponents and we wanted to create endurance and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But just to set up the stage for this guy and how intense some of our practices, this before we even touched a basketball or got into plays, we would get after it early in the morning. And then after that, we would get a water break and then we'd go over plays and whatnot and video and whatever else. But yeah, 60 minutes of just solid running. But this guy, some of the things he would have us do, I'll never forget. Like one of the drills that we would do every single morning, bear with me here. There's a reason why I'm going through this, but I want you to hear some of this. And some of you guys that played basketball or girls that played basketball may know some of these drills. But one of the drills I thought was just crazy at the time. He would set us up in 2 rows, beside each other with a little space in between. And he would roll a basketball out and just on the floor, just kind of roll it or bounce it or whatever it might be out to midcourt. And as soon as he did that, a whistle would blow and we would have to run and race each other to that basketball. And it would be, the goal was to dive on the ball and to get to that ball and make sure that, kick, slap, bite, elbow, whatever, wrestling, whatever it took to get that ball. And I would come home with blood on the knees. It would just strawberries, raspberries, whatever you want to call those, and bruises and banged up. And it would be just an absolute brawl to make sure we got that basketball. And the point of that was he was talking to us about doing the hard things that nobody else wants to do. Typically when you see, a ball roll across, well, someone might try to run to it and bend over and grab it. But we were to just all out dive for it and make sure that ball was in our possession. And it was just an insanely intense drill that we had to do. And I'd come home and friends of mine that I would talk to would be like, man, you're playing basketball, right? This looks like a football injuries, and I got hip injuries and, there would be bite marks and there would be just elbows flying, and I'd sometimes have black eyes or whatever, just literally just flying down the court to make sure we got that basketball. And again, just doing the things that nobody else would do and making sure that we were the ones diving after the loose balls to gain an extra possession or two. And again, there's a lesson to be learned there. And another thing, that he taught us and he would talk to us about that to this day, I think about. For me, this was fundamental changes in my life that as a 16-year-old, I didn't understand at the time, but I do now. And I practice some of this. He would tell us, if you have to come out of the game at any point, if I substitute you out, I don't want you going to the bench, sitting there with the towel over your head and sulking and wondering when the next minute you're coming in. No, you are staying involved in the game. I want you cheering. I want you high-fiving. I want you yelling. I want you cheerleading your team from the sidelines at any moment. I mean, you could sit down for a minute to catch a breath, get your Gatorade or your water, Powerade, whatever it was, but then you're on your feet and you are into the game. You are intense. You are talking. You are screaming. You are cheering on and encouraging your teammates the entire time, so that we stayed in the flow and the rhythm of the game, so that when you go back in, there's not an acclimation period. You are in the game. You know what's going on. You know who's hot, who's not, what plays we've been running, what's not been working, what has been working. And when you get in, you high five, you do the butt slap, the whole nine of letting know the guy that came out for you did a heck of a job. And you're communicating the entire time when you're on the sidelines. And it was something that was fundamentally game changing, because not only is it encouraging to your teammates, not only is it something that keeps you involved in the game, but it's also distraction to the other team. It's also just showing that unity. It was just something that I'll never forget. And, it started making me think as I've gotten older. And the other day when I was, talking about leadership, I started thinking about Coach V and the biggest, leader that I had in my life at that time. And yeah, I had great parents. I had a great minister and whatever it might have been. But Coach V single-handedly, changed my life in so many ways. And I go back to some of the things we talk about, and I come away with 2 or 3 things that I want to share with you that kind of, go and coincide with that post that I made about leadership. And I want you guys to think about this. And number one, it makes me think about, as a leader, whether you're the owner of the agency, whether you're a principal of the agency, or whether you're an account manager or a producer, there's leadership skills to be learned from this. And number one, you think about the endurance that you have to have as a leader, and, running up and down that court, and it just makes me think, as a leader, you're going to need to be called upon at any given time to be able to do things. Or if a customer walks in and needs something from you, or the phone rings, something happens, or with market shifts and changes, you've got to be able to have endurance. And I think about the hard market that we're in right now, and it's one of those that I've never seen anything like it. And I've been in this industry 20 years. And I think we still got a long way to go on it, but you got to have that endurance. And you may have to stay late. You may have to get up early. You may have to get more creative. You may have to do some things that you hadn't been able to do before, but you need to have that endurance to be able to outlast your opponents, to be able to outthink your opponents, to be able to be clear-headed when this market's changing, when things are happening. Just having that mental image for me, and maybe for you too, of thinking about that interval of running up and down the court and conditioning. I one of my good friends and partner in crime right now at Vertiforce, Sid Rowe, and we talk about her training for triathlon. She's a triathlete, and she talks about endurance training and running and biking, these long bike rides. And some of you that are bike riders right now, I'll never forget. I tried to get into cycling, and if you know me, I'm a big boy. Cycling just didn't work for me. But I remember bragging to a friend of mine that was a cycler, and I said, "Yeah, I got out. I had a great long ride. I rode 12 miles this weekend." They're like, 12 miles? That's just warm up. And I was like, wait a minute, 12 miles? That's a long time for me. And I'm sitting here, bragging about that. But again, I digress. Thinking about that endurance training and having to do that, I think we need to be able to focus on having that endurance as a leader, and having that endurance as a person on your team to be able to perform when you're called upon at any given time. I also think about, the parts of a leader that is being open into communication and being an encourager and being someone that is positive and uplifting and cheerleading your team on. I think there's so much negativity in our world, so much negativity in agencies. And again, I talk about a hard market. I talk about market shifts, and I talk about the things going on with carriers and with this and with that. It's so easy to get negative, and it's so easy to get down in the dumps, to get upset and get just ticked off, for lack of better words, because it is tough. And you feel like, oh, the carriers aren't on my team, or, my account managers or CSRs or the owner of the agency or the producers or, my technology or the partners we have here and there, they're not on the same page and everyone's always against me or this or that. It's so easy to get negative and get down the dumps. But, for you to be a leader, be that voice of, way to go, and cheering on the sidelines and being excited and noticing the little things and calling those things out. Being an encourager in the workplace is such a huge uplift and such a huge lift in your leadership and in your agency and in your family and whatever you're doing. But I think a key component of being a good leader is being a good communicator and being able to highlight your teammates when they're doing something right. I think as a leader in the agency, I think if you could call those people out, even if it's just a simple call out on a meeting to say, hey, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Sally or to Joe or to Tommy or whoever it might be, to say, man, I noticed last week you did this or that, or you did a great job on getting this quote out to me, or you did a great job on remarketing these 3 accounts, or whatever it might be. I think that's going to make a huge difference. I know this sounds just so fundamental and easy, but I don't see it a lot. And I've been in thousands of agencies throughout my career in consulting roles and marketing roles and sales roles. I don't think it happens near enough. And I think it's something I learned from Coach V through that exercise and being that cheerleader and being that motivator. And I think that it's going to make a huge, massive impact in your agency. If you could be that guy, be that girl, be that person in your agency that's an encourager and that is lifting up. The other thing I think about is, and I still to this day have PTSD thinking about this drill, but seeing that loose ball on the floor and diving after it and making those extra hustle plays, it just makes me think as a leader and as someone in your agency. I know for me personally, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm not the most skilled in not in athletics, but in just general in life. But I do know that I can outwork the next guy if I want to. If I put my head down, I get after it. It doesn't take a lot of skill to outwork somebody. It just takes that want to, that drive, that passion. And I think that's something that we could all do. It requires just effort. And if you want to be that person that makes those extra hustle plays, that goes the extra mile, that, it takes just a little bit more. And you could be that difference maker in your agency. And, people talk about those people at the water cooler. People talk about those people, and you want to be in that conversation, right? You don't want to be the lazy one that just kind of does just enough to get by. You want to be the one that is making those extra plays, that is hustling, and that is getting after it. And I think that's going to go a long way. And so, again, I go back to the story of my coach and some of the things that he had taught me. And, he had this commitment to excellence and the commitment to outworking the opponent and this commitment to the hustle plays, because he knew small town Arkansas, and at a private school for that matter, and undersized. And we didn't have near as talented of a team as our opponents, and we didn't have those things. But we won a lot of games, and we went into state tournaments, and we went into district tournaments because we had the hustle, because we had the grit, because we were the underdog, because we had that mentality that I think that you have to have as a leader to be able to outwork your opponents. And so I think for me, I started thinking about that, and I want to share a little bit of that with you, just part of my journey, part of my story of leadership. Because I've gotten so much feedback from the John Livesey episode last week. And, some of the things that stood out to you guys and some of the things that John and I were, talking about, some of the things I've always had a passion about is something that he talked about, crafting that perfect sales pitch or that elevator pitch. And this has been something that I've spoken about in the past at various stages and various times in my career. And, so I wanted to talk about this in conjunction with what we talked about. He got into the 3 C's of crafting the perfect sales pitch, and he talked about being clear. And for those who didn't hear it, I'll just kind of go through a little highlights of it. He talked about being clear, and he said that the pitch should be clear and easy to understand, meaning don't use insurance lingo. Try not to get caught up in all of that, using language like, BOP or deductibles and so that being said, it's one of those things that it can be hard to do sometimes because we want to use some of that lingo because we know it, right? And you've got to be clear on your message. What is it? What is that message that you want to convey? Are you trying to focus on a specific coverage, a specific challenge? Are you going to try to convey the message specific to their industry? Maybe you're in a niche. Maybe you're talking about restaurants or habitational or hospitality or something to that effect. Maybe you should, know your audience, so that's, again, a part of that clear. And this is a big one that I feel like insurance agents and producers have a hard time with, maybe even account managers. Maybe you start rambling. You don't stay on target or to the point. You want to avoid using filler words like try not to use some of those. Be very intentional with your words. Be very specific, but don't give it all away on the first call. Another thing that's hard to do. We want to give away the farm, so to speak. We want to give it all away on that first call and throw out everything that we got, stick it all on the wall and see what happens. And that's not a great way of doing it. Am I right? Because what you're going to end up doing is giving them the playbook to take back to the other agent or to shoot holes in and do all that. So you just want to give them enough to leave them wanting more, right? So again, as he's talking about the 3 C's of crafting that sale, concise is huge. Tease them. Remember, this is just a teaser. And that's one of the things he talked about last week. And again, it's not that I'm trying to redo that whole podcast, but he did about 2 minutes on this section, and I think it should have been expanded out or could have been expanded out for a 20-minute. So I want to do that right now in this solo. And I will give John Livesey the full credit for the 3 C's. That's something that he's got copyrighted. If not, then, he at least brought it up. So I'm not trying to steal his material. Just wanted to let you guys, I'm going to expound on it a little bit. And so as he talked about it, he didn't get into much of the details. He just gave us the 3 C's. So I'm just getting more into it. So again, we've got clear, got to be concise. And the next one he talked about was being compelling. And this is one of the best, the best things that he talked about and that I talk about a lot. Maybe you start off with did you know that? Or have you ever? Do you? Don't go in there talking about how great you are. If you go in there and say, did you know that? Have you ever? Do you do this or do you do that? And another thing you might be able to do is stories. Stories sell. Stories sell. Stories sell. Stories sell. I love a good story. So if you can find a great story that you've got, that you can make a very concise, very clear, and make it compelling, and all within a matter of, I don't know, a minute or two, just to kind of maybe a sentence or two for that matter, just to get them hooked in. And you got to make it relevant to them so they can put themselves into the story. Maybe it's some claim story. You got to have those stories and make it appeal to them and put themselves into it. We all have stories. And if you're new into business, borrow a story from somebody else. Sit down with another producer or Google a good story on a claim for this or a situation there. And paint that picture. Do your research, find out what common issues that your prospect might have, and paint that picture for them. And find that broad stroke that's just compelling enough to make them want more and be like, yes, I do have that issue. Yes, if that were to happen to me, I'd be in a lot of trouble. It's got to be compelling. And then the last thing I would say when it comes to compelling is to create a call to action of some sort. Try to get them to what my good friend Jake Warges says is, bam, fam, book a meeting from a meeting. Let me run that back. Book a meeting from a meeting. Bam, fam. Should be something you could be able to remember pretty easily. So if you can always remember that, don't leave an appointment until you talk about the next steps, until you talk about the next meeting. What's your schedule look like tomorrow at 2? Or Wednesday, whatever. Have that date already in mind. Look at your calendar, know right then and there, so you can tell them, get it booked out, send them an email before you leave the parking lot or a text or something. Get that booked before you leave. So that was the 3 C's that Homeboy went through last week, and he did a great job on that. And, I've gotten a lot of people talk about that. And so, as he did, it made me think about some of the conversations that I've had throughout my career. And I have, something that I was working through with some friends of mine called the 4 G's of a great sales pitch. And it's very similar. So I wanted to kind of throw that out there for a minute and see what you think about it. But the first G would be grab their attention. Sounds very familiar, right? Use a surprising stat. That was easy for me to say. Surprising stat. Ask a question, throw out a quick story, something like that. Just grab their attention from the jump. Don't go in there with this, "Hi, my name is John Doe and I sell insurance. Can I have an appointment with you? I want to quote your insurance." No, jump in there, throw out a compelling statement, throw out a quick story, do something, ask a question, draw them in, grab their attention. Once you got them, what are you going to do with them now? It's like, okay, I got it. Now what am I going to do? Now you got to generate interest. The second G, generate interest. Describe a common issue that your prospect is likely to face or probably facing right now. And so you start describing that. You start talking about that with them. And you tell a story quickly while you're generating that interest that relates to that client. Whether it's a claim story or, a personal story in your own life, or a past, client story, something to that effect, to where you can, again, grab their attention, generate that interest, and then give them a solution. Again, not the whole farm, but number 3, so you got grab their attention, generate interest, and now you're going to give them the solution. But not too specific to where you give it away. You just got to know how your product solves their problem. Highlight what makes you different with again, if we're using XYZ agency or John Doe agency, we have the John Doe method of highlight what makes you different. Talking about, because everybody comes in and says the same thing. When you ask what makes you different, customer service. Okay, well, that's what everybody says. So you got to do something that makes you different.
We're at a mid-roll ad, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm excited to be talking to you about my friends over at Old School Marketing, oldschoolmarketing.com. That's OLDE, because the guy's old school. Remember, he's got that old red truck. They help you with taking a old school method and doing it in a new school way by using some really cool technology to get some of that direct mail marketing out to your customers in a drip method. To where it's handwritten notes written by real humans in his office that, the card on the envelope's handwritten, the inside of the card's handwritten. So it looks like grandma sent it to you. And who doesn't like to get a card from grandma? Now, this one's not going to have the $5 bill in it, but you're still going to love opening this card. And this postcard, it's going to help you to get your phone ringing on a consistent basis because he used a drip method. Guys, go to oldschoolmarketing.com and use the code TOWN10, and you're going to get 10% off of your order. Again, TOWN10. Guys, also, my good friends over at Canopy Connect, your one-click solution to getting all the deck pages you need to quote your prospect. You heard him on the podcast a few weeks ago. Tolga Tezel did a great job talking to us about the newest and exciting things going on with commercial insurance and how you're able to get those loss runs that you need, and you're able to get the deck pages and all the things you need to quote your prospect without being intrusive and without getting in their face and having an interrogation. Ladies and gentlemen, go to usecanopy.com/Heath and take advantage of getting your discount, booking your demo, and doing all those things. You guys know Toga's one of my favorite people in this industry, so make sure you go and support him and what he's doing over at Canopy Connect. Now let's get back to the show.
Maybe that is compliance checks. Maybe that is special trainings. Maybe that is OSHA trainings. Maybe that is education. The agencies that lead with education are so much more valuable in so many people's eyes than those who just lead with price. So you got to find something besides price and besides customer service that you can rely on. Maybe it's technology, maybe it's this, maybe whatever it might be. Find something, find your solution, and be able to quickly throw that out there in a sales pitch that works, and not just your typical 10-second name, sell insurance, let me sell you some. No, it's not going to work. It might work 1 out of 50 times, but you want a better close ratio than that, right? Conversion ratio, I should say. The last G that I want to talk to you about is guide them to the next steps. So give them that call to action, the CTA or C2A, however you want to look at it. Give them the call to action, set that appointment, and set that next appointment with them. Again, going back to that BAM fam that I just brought up on that third C, or the second C, whatever it was. But yeah, so guide them to the next steps. Let them know what that looks like, and put them in that position to where they want to be in that next steps. So again, you don't want to try to write the business on the first call, but you want to at least give the elevator pitch that makes them want more. It makes them want to go the next steps and walk them through it. What does that look like? Okay, so from here, I'm going to take this information, I'm going to give it to an underwriter, and the next steps is here, and then we're going to do this, and then I'm going to close here, and then after we close, walk them through the journey a little bit. But putting them in the position, so then when you walk away, you're controlling the conversation and you say what the next step is. So I'm going to come back out on this date, or, you're going to send me your deck pages, or you're going to sign this AOR, and here's what we're going to do from here, or however your method is. Put yourself in this method and guide them through that. So again, I got a lot of feedback on the 3 C's: concise, compelling, and clear. But, I've also, developed my own. It was a 4G. So I wanted to kind of piggyback off of what my man Livesay said. And so, if you could do that, I think you're going to do a lot better. And so again, if you go through that, and somebody like, well, give me an example. So like at John Doe Insurance, we understand that things happen, and those things can have a major impact on your business. Just last week, one of our clients, a small business owner, had experienced a break-in that caused major damage to his property, and it resulted in a loss of income. Man, so fortunate that they had risk management solutions in place that helped recover quickly, and they got him back to business as usual pretty quick. We have over 50 years of experience working with businesses just like yours, and we want to provide you solutions that fit your specific needs and budget. We'll use that experience to help you develop and implement risk management strategies so you can focus on running your business. We focus on risk management, you on running your business. Some of those strategies could be risk assessments, workplace safety programs. It could be disaster preparedness plans, or a review of your current insurance programs. We have the solutions in our back pocket. I would love to learn more about your current risk management program. Do you have some time next week? Maybe tomorrow that we could visit about this? Something like that. I don't know. I'm just flying off the cuff here, but I think that if you can do that, and hopefully that made sense to you. So I kind of painted a picture, told them about a quick break-in, where some property and some damage, but luckily they had us. And if you notice, I didn't mention insurance. I mentioned risk management strategies. But I didn't say insurance to the very end when I said we could review your current insurance programs. So I'm not coming across as some sleazy salesperson. It's more of I am, an advisor to them. I'm a risk manager, things like that. So again, I just wanted to piggyback off of a great episode last week, and I wanted to talk about that stuff with that, setting up a great sales pitch. And this could be in a cold call situation. This could be in a networking event. This could be in a BNI. It could be in an elevator for that matter. Again, it's got to be clear, concise. It's got to be compelling. It's got to grab their attention, generate interest, give the solution, guide them to the next steps, all of those things. And if you can do those things, you're going to be in a much better position to be able to set up more opportunities. And that's the name of the game, is opportunities, activities. And one of the questions I got recently was, and I'll answer this in several different forms probably throughout this because I'll ramble a little bit. So hang with me while I vent and why I just go off a little bit and while I just rabbit trail and squirrel a little bit. But one of the questions I got recently was, what are some secrets or some tricks or some ideas to training my producers to get out and sell? And I think that's a case for a lot of 2022. A lot of people And 2021, for that matter, coming into 2022 was, the activities and the, sales and the renewals and a lot of things are struggling right now. And we're coming into a harder market. And so my answer to that is going to be something that's simple. And you might think, man, that's it. That's your answer, Mayor. But yes, it is. My answer is activity. I should have a couple answers, but I'll start off with activity. Activity begets activity begets activity, and a lot of things can happen by just having some activity. I can't say the word activity enough. I want you to hear it. I want to drill in your head of activity, 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 because I truly believe. I can't talk. So I truly believe that sitting at your desk. My dad told me this a long time ago. And you probably heard this on the episode with my dad. I was upset when I first started working with Dad 20 something years ago. And I was like, Dad, where's my desk? Where's my office? Because I'm thinking I'm the owner's dad. The owner's dad. Golly, again, I'm tongue tied here and I can't talk. I'm the owner's son, and I'm going to be this rock star, and I need to have my own desk. But Dad looked at me square in the eye and was like, get out of here with that. You're not going to get a desk. If you're sitting at a desk, if you're in the office, you're not making money. And that's stuck with me forever. I'll never forget that because I think that was really good advice. And I feel like, if there's any advice I could give, is to get out there and, have some activity. And what does that look like? I think that looks like a lot of different things. I think that looks like it could be cold calls. It could be drop-ins. It could be calling unsold quotes, dead leads, new leads, calling referral partners. It could be a lot of things. But what I would start off by saying is just get out from behind the desk, pick up the phone, and have some activity. And let me caution you here because I got to put a caution here, because when I say this, and I've talked to a lot of producers that can find themselves doing the wrong activity. And the wrong activity is just as harmful as the no activity. and we talk about this. Kelly, my good friend Kelly Donahue-Piro and her staff and her team and our team over at APP, we talk about this a lot. And that is, we hate the word busy. And I think that I see too many producers busy instead of productive. And I don't want to get into all of that, but I do want to go back to that word that I've repeated 1,000 times on this episode. You're going to hear it again several more times, but activity. And I think you can get caught up in, what do I mean by the wrong activity? You're listening to me right now and you're like, what, Mayor? Mayor, what do you mean? What's the wrong activity? The wrong activity is getting caught up in emails. The wrong activity is getting caught up in firing off cold emails or working activities or just being busy just to be busy. Sometimes you're shuffling papers from one side of the desk to the next, or you're talking with your colleagues, or you're creating an idea that's going to lead to another idea, or you are doing mundane tasks that are on your desk just to do something, just to show that you're busy. And I think that's the wrong activities. If you're spending the majority of your time every day figuring out where you're going to eat lunch, who you're going to talk to at the water cooler today, and you're looking at your task and figuring out how you can make those stretch throughout the day just to look busy, then you got the wrong activities going on. And I hope I'm stepping on your toes a little bit here, because if that's you, I want better for you. I want you to be productive. The mayor wants you to make a ton of money or to be as successful as you want to be. And that's going to happen by activities you create. So what are some of the right activities? Some of the right activities are getting out, and let's call it cold calling, drop-ins. When I hear the word cold calling, I immediately go to drop-ins, because that's what I did. When I started my career, this was before Google, this was before Facebook, this was before all of that, in the early 2000s, before you could just get up and Google somebody's name and figure out where they're at and their address, or Google somebody's business and figure out everything you need to know. I had to go out and knock doors, literally. So when I think cold call, that's what I think of when I think of cold call, which is drop-ins. Now they're called drop-ins. But getting out every day, and I had to call on 20 people a day. And again, I don't mean phone calls. I was out door knocking. Sometimes I would park at the front of a neighborhood and knock doors, kind of like the home security guy, or the pest control guy, or the home Wi-Fi guy that you get to knock on your door and they talk to you about, fiber optic cable, or what do you call that? Or they talk to you about putting solar panels on your roof or whatever. I respect the heck out of that hustle. That's a hustle, man. But I did that with insurance, starting on my career. I would go knocking doors, knock, 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 try to get in the door. I wanted to talk to them. I said, knock, knock, knock. And I could have just knocked on my desk and gotten the same effect. But, uh, when you record a podcast today, or by yourself, you got to find ways to laugh and entertain yourself. But that was my thing, man. Activity. And I want to knock on 20 doors every day because I knew that if I knocked on 20 doors, I knew that I was going to get at least 2 or 3 appointments and I could close at least 1 or 2 of those. And if I kept doing that every single day, I'd get 4 and 5 and 6 of those, whether it was a home and auto or whether it was a commercial account that was 20, 30,000, or it was a benefits account, or if it was life insurance. I don't know. I was just out beating doors every day trying to get something going on. And it worked. And I built a solid book that way. And fast forwarding 20 something years later, as I'm talking to you now, and I'm talking to producers and training producers, it's all about that activity. And I know you're thinking, really, Heath? I mean, that's it? Yes, that is 100% it. That is my first piece of advice out there, is just to get out there. Now, it may not be 20 for you. Maybe it's 5 or 10. Maybe it's 1 day a week that you get out from behind your desk and you start calling. And you start thinking, what if I'm not good at cold calling? What if I'm not good at cold drops? What if I'm not good at that? I'll tell you 2 things. Number one, there's, as my friend Seth Zaremba once said on my show and on several people's show, there's gold in your backyard that you could be mining. There's gold in your agency that could easily be mined. We're not doing that sometimes. And if you're not, there's opportunity right there within your book of quoted unsold leads from the last 4 or 5 years. There's clients have left you like a thief in the night, or you left that back door cracked and they walked out. Somebody else called on them. They left you because your rates went up. But now you've got a new carrier that's got lower rates. Now you've got an opportunity you can come back in, or you're coming into a hard market where everybody's going to be shopping. And you got to know that going into this kind of hard market. Don't be scared of that. Let me squirrel for a minute on that, because I think that too many people, too many producers that I talk to, too many agency owners right now, oh no, we're in a hard market. This is going to suck. No, this is opportunity right now. This is opportunity knocking. It's time to answer that door. Time to answer that call. Time to get out. Time to make those calls. Time to do the thing and get some activity going. Pick up the phone, call some folks. And right now, this podcast is about a new business. But yeah, I would definitely say coming into a hard market, this is a great opportunity because everybody's going to be shopping. Rates are going to be going up across the board, not just your agency, but everybody's. So take that opportunity, make some phone calls, get some drop-ins, go see some people. Activity. Super, super simple. And the next part I would say is part 2 to this. Again, it's going to be a quick hit. It's going to be an easy episode here. Would be accountability. Find an accountability partner. Find somebody that you can talk to. Set those goals. Tell somebody in your office. Tell your account manager. Tell somebody that you're friends with. Tell somebody that you've set an activity goal for 20 calls a day, or 2 days a week you're going to make cold calls, or whatever that is. I'm going to find referral partners. I'm going to do something. That's another one, back on a squirrel moment for a minute. I talked about cold calls. I talked about the gold in your backyard. And now I talk about referral partners. Get out there, network, find some referral partners, get some activity going there. Find something you want to go see. I've got a producer I'm working with right now. Shout out to Brett. Every Friday, he sets appointment to have lunch with a mortgage broker, with a lender, with a realtor, with a referral partner of some sort. Shout out, Brett. Congrats. That may be something for you activity-wise. But back to accountability, find somebody to talk to about it and do it. I think that it's going to help you so much. And I know a lot of people are scared of accountability. They're scared of, if I tell somebody, if I do this, I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to put, pen to paper. I'm going to have to put the pedal to the metal and make it happen. I'm going to actually have to grind and do it. And if you don't want to do it, don't. But if you're something you're committed to, activity, something you really want to do, you're going to have to. So find somebody you can talk to about it. Find somebody that's going to call you on your BS. Find someone that's going to call you and say, hey, did you go see anybody this week? How'd it go? My dad used to call me every morning and say, hit a home run today. And I didn't want to let my dad down. And my brothers and I would do that. Chase, some of you know Chase, my brother who's been on the show before, we would talk about it every day and, figure out ways to keep each other accountable and get out there. And I'll tell you, funny story about that. And then I'll start to wrap this up a little, but I'll never forget when Wall Street, I think it's called Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps, the newest version of that movie came out with Shia LaBeouf. We went out and we watched that movie. And after that, we watched Glengarry Glen Ross, and we watched the original with Michael Douglas, the Wall Street movie. And my brother and I, Chase, asked him about it if you ever talked to him, but we were fired up. We were like, let's go put on suits and go cold call. Let's get out there and do it. And we were so jacked, and we kept each other accountable. We were like, hey, let's get out there and let's make some calls. Let's do some things. Let's get out there and see some people, and we just got fired up. And, whatever it takes for you, maybe right now, listen to this. You're like, I need something to motivate me to get it going. I'm telling you, find one of those 3 movies. Find a movie that gets you jacked. Maybe it's Rudy. That's another one. My brother and I, we love those motivational, inspirational movies. Remember the Titans, Rudy, whatever it is. We're big movie buffs. But find something to get you motivated, and find somebody to keep you accountable. You can buy all the shiny objects and have all the technology that you want. But if you're not doing it, if you're not having activity with it, if you're not putting it into place correctly, there's no use in having it. I'm telling you right now, just good old-fashioned hustle, grit, grind. You can't teach that. It's not a skill that you can teach. It's just doing it. And there's a reason why that old slogan from Nike, just do it, is so relevant even today. I don't know when that slogan came into existence. In fact, as I'm talking right now, I'm about to Google this. I'm about to figure this out because I think it's fascinating that it's still relevant today because, look at me multitasking, because I'm actually my wife says I can't multitask, but I do think that, okay, maybe I can't do it. I'm trying. But okay, I found it. All right, now I can stop multitasking. In 1987, Nike's slogan came into play of just do it. That's been, over 20 years. Wait, yeah, 97, 2007, 30, 35, 36 years that has still been a relevant slogan for Nike. And I think it's the same for everything. Just get out there and just do activity. Get out there, hustle, grit, grind, whether it's referral partners, whether it's calling on the gold in your backyard, to quote Seth Zaremba again, or if it is just activity of getting out, cold calling, drop-ins, going to networking events, all of those types of things, all of that is relevant. All of that's going to create great opportunities for you to write new business. I think that's it. I think I'm going to wrap this up. So let me put a little bow on this. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, guys. Look forward to hanging out with you again next week.